Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk a little bit about a good query within Google. A query are the search terms that you type into Google to get the information that you want. And there are good queries and there are really bad queries that don't end up getting you the information that you want. So let's pretend like you're reading The Giver by Lois Lowry and you decide you really enjoyed it and you'd like to get more books like The Giver, maybe to get some recommendations. Well, when you go into Google, you might be tempted to type in a full question. What are the names of some books like The Giver? And you ask Google a complete sentence using question words as though Google were a person. Well, Google's not a person and it doesn't think the way that people do. It's a machine, and so you have to give it the fewest words possible to get the best information that you can. So looking at this sentence here, you can see right away there's a bunch of words you don't need. Most importantly, the question words like what, who, where, words like that typically aren't going to help you. So if you get rid of all these unnecessary words, you might be left with something like books like The Giver. And look what we're finding. Lots of good recommendations if you like The Giver, books similar to The Giver that might get you some good recommendations that you like. Well, let's say as you start reading more of these books, you come to realize that these books they fit into a genre called dystopian fiction. And you're like, wow, I really like dystopian fiction. Are there movies that have been made that are in that same format? Well, instead of asking, are there any dystopian fiction movies, you might ask something like, dystopian fiction movies, and you'll see they'll give you some good suggestions. Maybe perhaps these are novels made into movies. Dystopian science fiction movies, those are really good recommendations too. And when you do that, you see right away, here's a list of dystopian films, the top 50 dystopian movies, and as you start going through these results, you might find a couple of movies that you haven't seen that you might be interested in, and maybe you put them on your Netflix queue or something. But it all gets back to the information that you put into Google. If you give it too much information, you're not going to get the results you want. So think to yourself, what are the words I don't need in my query? What are some unnecessary words that you can pull out of these sentences? And when you come up with short, to the point one, like books like The Giver, you end up with far better searches. Happy searching!